Hey, wives. Happy Self-Care Friday. Hello. How are you self-caring for yourself today? How are you taking care of yourself? What y'all got planned for this upcoming weekend? Listen, so y'all know I had popped in yesterday evening for a bit, so I'm gonna try not to hold y'all long, especially with this message that I want to share. For many of you, it may be a horror story. Hello. For many of you, you may not even want to hear this. Hello. This would be that horror story for this month. I normally give them out, a couple of times in, a year. So last week, was it last week? I think it was last week message that I had shared. Hey girl. And man, they tried to come for me. They tried to come for me. And so I want to just emphasize today how this platform is not for every wife who's going through a marital separation. This platform is not for every wife who's going through a marital hardship. This platform may not necessarily be for every person who have, their certain standards when it comes down to, and I say standards, because I'm just one of those ones who, I believe in, wise hearing from God. I believe in individuals consulting with the Lord when it comes down to certain things. And so I just want to highlight that part at the top of this video. I want to just highlight that at the top of this video. Like I said, this might be a little spooky for some. Not spooky like that, but some may think it's spooky, but we're going to talk about it. But I just want to highlight that part. I am a mental health wife coach. My name is Coach T. And I am a mental health wife coach and marriage consultant. Excuse me. And the wives that I work with and the wives that I coach are usually wives who are in a very, very difficult marriage. They're in a marriage where it's not like, oh, well, we can just go to counseling and have, just talk about our communication and that's it. Like, this is not the type of marriages that we dealing with. This is not just, oh, we having a communication breakdown, or he raised the kids this way, I raised the kids that way. This is not this. We're not doing that. This is heavyweight stuff that we're dealing with over here. And most of the wives who are going through these things have biblical reasons to exit out of that marital covenant. Just based off of the word alone, they have the biblical reason to exit out of that marital covenant. However, most of the times these wives has also received a divine word from the Lord, where they feel like the Lord has given them verbatim or a divine download where he has said, I want you to stay in that marriage, or I want you to stand for that marriage. And so a lot of times what's happening is these wives are in these marriages and they're waiting for the next step. Hello. They're waiting for the next instruction. They're waiting for, okay, God, you told me to do this. You told me to do that. What do you want me to do next? Jaden. No, I'm sorry. They here. So these wives are dealing with some heavyweight stuff, right? They're dealing with some heavyweight stuff, and they are going through a difficult season. But then these wives are also dealing with, like, my husband has went from 1 to 1,000. Like, I don't even recognize who this man is anymore. He is not even the normal, type of person. He's no longer that husband that I married. And so I want to just highlight that part from the beginning, that you know, a lot of times, and this is why I'm a biggie on being careful about who you're listening to, being careful about who you giving your ear to when it comes down to your marriage, being careful about, you know, the advice that you're getting, the counsel that you're receiving, and just being careful about who you allow to speak to you and give you, you know, words of wisdom, words of knowledge about, you know, your marriage. I always say, even when it comes down to the prophetic, even when it comes down to the pastor, even when it comes down to, you know, certain ones, you want to just be very mindful. You want to be very mindful of who you, just sign my name. You want to be very mindful of who you give, you know, your ear to when it comes down to your marriage, you know, your marriage, especially when you are in a place where you're not really sure what you're supposed to be doing next, right? And so y'all see the title. I titled this message as I Stopped Wanting My Marriage. I stopped wanting my marriage. And so this may be controversial for some. I ain't on here to debate with you. I'm a coach. And so my job is to come on here and help whoever I'm supposed to help. And for the wives who are ready to take the next steps, then we go from there. All right. And so as always, Jesus, be a fence. Lord, guide this, you know, live accordingly. Stand guard. And I pray for the ones who are supposed to receive it. I pray for the ones who are supposed to get this message that they get it in Jesus' name. I'm going to start off with that. Listen, wives have to stop being afraid of losing their marriages. Wives have to stop being afraid of losing their marriages. Many times with some of the wives that I work with, they may start off with the marital injury. Their husband has left the home. The husband is no longer in the home. The husband has, you know, been out for a while. They have done their regimens. They have done their prayer. They have done their fast, and they have seek the Lord. The husband comes home, and now he's home, and things are okay for a moment, or things are okay for, you know, for a little while. But the wife is still noticing that, hey, something is still off here. There still is a void. There's still something missing. And so she's trying to figure out, you know, what to do. She's trying to figure out, you know, what is this about? Wives have to understand that the award on this journey is not a restored marriage. That's not the reward. It's not, oh, my husband finally came home, my marriage is restored. That is not the restored. That is not the award to this journey. Okay. The award to this journey is finally realizing, finally knowing, finally understanding why God called her to this place in the first place. Because one of the things that I always emphasize, you better know that you know God has told you to stand for this type of marriage. Okay. Because this is some heavy weight that you're dealing with. So you better know that God has told you to stand for this type of marriage. All right. It has been a privilege to be called to this place. Hands down. It's definitely a privilege for God to trust you enough to say, hey, I'm calling you to stand for this unhealthy marriage, because I know that you can handle the pressure that comes along with it. Okay. But there is also a lot of pain involved as well. You have to understand that this is real. Like, ladies are dealing with some real stuff when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. You got to have some thick skin. That's just the bottom line. Okay. You need to know that you are that girl. How Eve said, who's that girl? Like, you better know that you her. Okay. You got to know that you are that girl. All right. You have to know that you are that girl, and why the kingdom of darkness is after you like he is. Because there is a reason why God has chose you for this. There is a reason why you are being attacked like you are being attacked. There is a reason why the enemy comes for you like he comes for you. There is a reason why God is even allowing certain things to happen. Okay. There is a reason behind that. All right. You have to first understand, wife, and this is one of the things I always highlight. You have to understand that God has given you power and authority, and you have dominion over things. Okay. God has given you power and authority, and you have dominion over things. So I'm gonna do a little story sharing, little story time. You know, I always try to reference, you know, something that, you know, I experienced myself. Of course, like I said, I work with plenty of wives, and I can give you stories for days. But one of the things I try to highlight and, help wives to understand, especially when they're choosing the person that they're allowing to speak in their life, one of the things I try to highlight is, I understand your journey because I was in the same place you was in. I understand your walk. I understand your thoughts. I understand what you're going through because I was you. Okay, I was you. And so a lot of times, yes, I use stories from others, but I like to also use my own story because I was in the same place you was in. Okay. And so one of the things that the Lord had brought to me this morning, because again, a lot of times I am being spirit led. I am being spirit led when I, bring some of these topics up and when these things come up. And one of the things he told me, and he brought to my attention this morning was, tell them do not forget the original assignment. Tell them to not forget the original assignment, right? And so, of course, when that came up, that brought me back to when the Lord told me about my assignment when it came down to my marriage. All right. So God told me at the age of 27, I'm in my 40 pluses now. Okay. But he told me at the age of 27 that my husband was my assignment. All right. My husband and I married. We were both at the age of 23. And so 4 years into our marriage, I was given these instructions. I was given the instructions that my husband was my assignment. For many years, I followed the instructions the Lord had given me through submission, through submitting, through unconditional love, through forgiveness, through understanding, through turning the other cheek. I was doing all the Christian accolades, okay? And my husband got worse. I was doing everything the book told me to do, okay? I did it all. I did everything that the pastor told me to do. I did what the book told me to do. I was doing all the Christianness stuff. I did that. And each year, I seen the deterioration of our relationship, and it did not get better with time. It did not get better with time. I'm here to tell you the truth. It got worse. Okay? It got worse. God was walking me through a process, and he was trying to get me to a place to help me see. Because for a long time, I was trying to, I think I was looking at it, very surface based. And a lot of people do, a lot of people do. A lot of people come into the marital covenant on a surface based level. And so I was very surface. I was very one-sided. I thought it had to be like this. You're supposed to be doing this. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like this. But God was trying to help me to see things the way he's seen things, okay? And that's a process. Okay? God once told me, and this was something that I had with my for a very long time. I think I've shared it in previous videos, that every day is different. This is one of the some of the first words I remember God telling me early on in my marriage. That every day is different. Some days are better than others, but each day it will get better. And when he was saying each day get better, he was talking about better for me, right? He was talking about better for me. Every day is different. Some days are better than others, but each day it will get better. And he was referring to me. And it did. It did. For me, I became more wiser. I became more knowledgeable. I was very, very familiar with, the spiritual world. I was very, very familiar with spiritual things. I was very, very equipped in, understood the Bible. I was very, very, open-minded to what God was downloading in me. I had a clear understanding of, what I was supposed to be doing and the different assignments he was assigning to me, in my life. I was really clear in that area. Like, I became a student. I basically became a student. Okay. And so I want to pause here though for a moment. Hello. I want to pause here for a moment and just add this part, because one of the things that I get a lot is when anytime, people mention about, the spiritual world and, we talk about, the unseen forces and things that, that you don't see, which that stuff is real. Okay. That stuff is real. People don't think it is, but it is. And it is an area that I do encourage my wife to study. I encourage you to study that. Especially if you're dealing with different kind of, wickedness, witchcraft, and, you need to know that side. You need to be very, very familiar with the spiritual side of things. But what I have also noticed is that there are some wives who are interested in the things of the spirit, but it's for the wrong reason. Right? It's for the wrong reason. And what they do is they use the warfare prayers. Sometimes they use these warfare prayers as a means to control their marital situation. But those prayers are not to be used to control their marital situation. Those prayers ought to be used as God leads you to pray in that way. Right? A lot of times these wives are like, oh, my husband acting crazy again. Okay, let me go get these prayers. I'm going to start praying these prayers. And it's like, but is that what God is guiding you and telling you to do? Or is he trying to give you another strategy? Because if you're just feeling like, okay, you're going to use, every time you see him doing something different, or every time something come up, or every time, you see something that you don't like, you're going to go and run and get these warfare prayers and pray those prayers, you kind of act like you're doing a little witchcraft too. Because that's not what that's for. There is a time and a season for those prayers to be prayed. And then the other times you need to be spirit led on how you pray those prayers. Because those are some dangerous prayers. Those prayers can get someone killed. They can take somebody out. And so you want to be mindful. You want to be mindful of how you pray those prayers. So I always tell wives, you need to learn the spiritual side of this. Okay. And one of the things I do in my premarital classes with some of the my premarital couples, I teach them spiritual warfare. That's something I just do in my sessions because I want people to understand, like, there's a spiritual side of your marriage as well. Okay. So those prayers are not meant to be used every single day. That's not what those prayers are for. Okay. You need to be spirit led as you are praying those prayers and be real mindful on how you are praying those prayers. All right. And so for a long time, I didn't know what I was up against. Okay. I didn't know what I was up against. In my head, I was like, what the hell I signed up for? And that's exactly how I said it. Like, what the hell is this? Because that's what my situation felt like. It felt like I had them pick the wrong class. Like, this is the wrong course. Like, this was not something that I had in mind when I thought about marriage. This is not what I thought about, right? And so I got inside training for my assignment. I got in-home training for my assignment. Some people get their training on the outside, dealing with the world and people and, different things like that. No, my training was did on the inside, okay? I fought the evil spirits at night, and I was restless throughout the day. I was coming up against all kinds of demonic things in the evening time when I lay my head down and go to sleep. Sometimes I didn't even want to go to sleep because I knew as soon as I shut eye, it was going to be a whole heap of stuff going on. And in the daytime, I was tired as all get out. All right. I was tired as all get out. My body was tired because of all the evil forces that I was encountering. The things that I seen, the things that I encountered, the things that the Lord allowed to happen. It was bananas. Okay. It was absolutely bananas. And so again, this is one of the reasons why I am really, I tell wives to tread lightly when you are dealing with that kind of stuff, because you can come up against some stuff and come and encounter with some stuff. And if you're not ready to handle that, or if God is not leading you spiritually, you're not being spiritually led to do these things, you trying to do stuff on your own, baby, that thing will eat you up. That world will eat you up. Okay. It will literally eat you up. There were times when I knew God was with me. And there were times when I screamed at him and asked, why did he answer? Like, why you come through? Because I knew if I plead the blood of Jesus, the blood of Jesus, the blood of Jesus, God was coming to get me. But it was sometimes when I was pleading the blood of Jesus and pleading the blood of Jesus, and God wasn't coming fast enough. And I was trying to figure out what was going on. Okay. So I had hands-on training. The fight I had was fierce. My God, it was fierce. My fight was a spiritual battle. I was dealing with a spiritual battle, and I was fighting an unseen world, but the things that I was experiencing was very, very real. I was fighting an unseen world, but the things I was experiencing, you would have literally thought that you can see this like visually, up front in person. That's how real it was when I was in the middle of that type of, warfare for that season. All right. My marriage was a target for the enemy in the very beginning. I didn't even know that the enemy was waiting for me. He was sitting over there like, yup, right at I do. Like, yup, I'm gonna be waiting for you. Like, yep, you have no idea what you finna come up against. Yep, I'm waiting for you. You the one. All right, you the one. So my marriage was a target in the beginning. The enemy had plans since day one. Okay, he had plans since day one. But, and this is the good part about this, his plans could not come against what God's plans were for my life. So yes, I always tell, and again, I'm using my premarital sessions as an example. Hello, because one of the things I try to tell couples is the enemy has a plan and God has a plan. The enemy's there at your wedding on your wedding day, and God is there. And it's like, what side you gonna be on? Whose side are you gonna be on? What side are you gonna be on during this time? Okay, God allowed the ugly, and He used it all for my basic training. Okay. I went through hell for that season. And I've shared on previous videos how the first year of my marriage, I will never forget the first year of my marriage, baby, my husband, it's like as soon as he would go to work, it was almost like action. And so my husband, he worked in the middle of the morning. So he would get up and go to work like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And baby, it's like when he hit that door and they knew he hit that door and I tried to lay down and go back to sleep, it's like them things came from me. And so I remember a lot of months, because I dealt with that for the whole, when I tell you every day for the first year of my marriage, that is not me exaggerating. That is not me exaggerating. Hello. Every day for the first year in my marriage, I was dealing with spiritual warfare. And I was fighting demons and fighting things in the unseen world. I was dealing with that stuff. I told y'all this was a horror story today. All right, and peaches and creaming today, y'all. But I'm trying to make a point. And so when he would leave, I would get up and I would start like cleaning up. I'll turn all the lights on in the house, turning music on, because I didn't want to go back to sleep. Because anytime I closed my eyes, those things was coming and it was trying to attack me. And so I didn't want to close my eyes. I was like, I ain't going back to sleep. I'm going to be up. And I wouldn't go back to sleep until like it get like daytime when I've been finished cleaning up or whatever. And I'm resting on the sofa. And then I would try to like nod off. But for that whole first year of my marriage, I went through that every single day. Okay. And it was like, soon as me and my husband got to our first year anniversary, it was like action. Now it was almost like this is a preview of what you was getting ready to deal with. The things that you was dealing with in the spirit realm, you were getting ready to deal with these things now in the natural. So what was happening in the spirit realm, it was like manifesting to what was getting ready to come in the natural. And it was not no joke. Okay. I encourage wives to make sure that they are spiritually knowledgeable about the spirit world, because you need to know what you're up against. If you're in that season, as God leads you, don't try to do that on your own. Don't just try to just jump. Oh, I'm going to just go over here and just do that. No, you need to be spirit led so you can know that that's what God is calling you to do in that time and during that time. All right. The enemy has no power or authority. And God has a final say. And I'm so glad that God had a final say when it came down to my situation. All right. The enemy, my bravery kicked in when I refused to let the enemy take me out. The whole goal of the enemy during that time and the years to come after that was to tire me out, was to force me out of my marriage, was to, help me to just forfeit this thing, just call it quits. And he probably would have got away with it too if I would not have had a divine word from the Lord. He probably would have won that battle too if I did not have the necessary help that I had and the tools that I was given and the resources that was given to me. He would have won that battle. Because some of that stuff that I was dealing with and some of the stuff I was going through, it was unreal. It was unreal. It's like ain't no doggone way a person in their right mind could deal with something like this. But what the enemy was trying to do was take me out. Okay, he was trying to take me out. He used my husband and his cultural background to try to take me out. But God's voice in my ears was a constant resounding voice that I followed. If it wasn't for me hearing and knowing the voice of God, then I would have jumped out a long time ago. If it wasn't for me following the voice of God, I would have walked away a long time ago. But I knew God's voice. Okay, I knew God's voice. Psalms 37:5-6 says, commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. He shall bring forth your righteousness at the light, and your justice as the noonday. This was one of the Bible scriptures that the Lord had gave me early on during my marriage, separation seasons when things were, this wasn't even separation seasons. It was separation season, but it was also prior to the separation. I never wavered from God's instructions or from the original plan that he had gave me. Did I have doubt? Did I have some bad days? Did I, sometimes it said, bump this, I don't want to do it no more? Absolutely. But even in those moments, I think what sustained me the most was, but I know I know what I heard. Like, I know what God had said to me. And so that was always my fight when it came down to me wanting to quit. It was like, you can quit or you can stop this, but you know what you heard. You could, throw in the towel, but you know what God said to you. So I couldn't even pretend like, I'm not sure this was God. I'm not really, it's like, no. God don't talk to you like that. God talks to you directly. You know when it's his voice and you know when he's telling you something. You ain't second guessing like, well, maybe this is God. Well, maybe if whites are in that place, in that season, then you got to go a little bit deeper because you supposed to know that you know that you know that you know. And that was my, what they call it, that was my conviction. It was almost like, you're trying to lead something, but you know what you heard. You know that you heard God say this. You're trying to end something. You're trying to come up against something. You're trying to fight something, and you know that God had already told you this. So that was one of the things that kind of like held me grounded. That's what kind of like helped me, through this process the most, because I heard the voice of the Lord. Right? I heard the voice of the Lord. All right. In the beginning, I was fighting for my marriage. Okay, in the beginning, I was fighting for my marriage. Then it was like, okay, I'm fighting for my family. Then you start hearing, so okay, I'm fighting for the generations, to come, et cetera, et cetera. So you fight for all these other reasons. You fight for all these reasons why you need to stay in your marriage, because I wanted it to make sense, because the stuff that I was dealing with was not making sense. And it was like, well, if I'm doing it for this reason, then that will make sense, because any other reason outside of those reasons, it's not making sense, right? And so in the end, I noticed that, no, this fight was for you. My training that I went through, and that's why I call it. I know everybody have their own words and their own way of, explaining what they went through. But for me, I went through the basic training, and my basic training was, dealing with what I had to go through in my marriage. What I went through in my marriage taught me how to be that person, taught me wisdom, taught me how to be that Christian, taught me compassion, taught me how to love deeper, taught me how to, rock with God on another level. That's what my fight was. That was what the journey was for me, right? So me being as an individual and the purposes of God that he had, for my life and the assignments, I am considered a warrior. I can say that hands down. Like, no, I don't waver in that area. I know I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior in this thing. All right. And I don't say that out of arrogance, but I do say that out of full confidence. All right. In full confidence. I have that confidence now in God because of what I went through. And so one of the questions that I always ask wives is, how far are you willing to walk and trust God's promises concerning your life? Not concerning your marriage, but concerning your life. Your marriage injury is just an invitation. Your marriage injury is just a way for he's gotten your attention. Your marriage injury was an invite. I always tell wives this. Your marriage injury was an invite to kingdom purposes, into the kingdom world. It was just an invite. Your marriage was just a way for God to get your attention. I've shared with my wife plenty of times on many occasions that I made my marriage an idol. I made my marriage an idol. I will go along with things and I'm gonna get into that part a little bit later. But I will go along with things just to go along with things, just to kind of like, because I wanted my family. I wanted us to be a family. And so whatever that looked like, whatever that took, it was like, I'm fighting for my family. They told you to fight for your family, so I'm fighting for my family. But the more and more I was trying to fight for my family, the more and more my family was went all chaotic. It was like, this crap ain't working, right? This crap ain't working. How long are you willing to walk with God to see the promises come to pass in your life? How long are you willing to see what the promises that he has concerning your marriage? Okay? Only God knows the plans that he has for your life. All right. Jeremiah 29:11 reminds us that, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope in a future. One of the biggest revelations for me was learning who my opponent was in my marriage. That was one of the biggest revelations for me. So many wives are out here fighting this battle, and they fighting the wrong person. they're fighting the wrong person. They don't know what is that battle that they're coming up. They don't know who their opponent is in their marriage, right? And so for me, my opponent was a Jezebel spirit. Oh my God. My opponent was a Jezebel spirit. The Bible verse that the Lord really, really called me out on, and for a long time, I kind of like patted, with that. But then I really, really started to accept what he was saying, because it's not just like the Jezebel, like, the other woman, the Delilah. It was you accepted the Jezebel spirit. And when you think about the Jezebel spirit, it's a lot of things that's connected to that spirit. It's not just, the Jezebel, the other woman. No, the Jezebel spirit is connected with many things, okay? So Revelations 2:20 says, nevertheless, I have this against you. I have this. I think some Bible verse say, I have this offense against you. You tolerated that woman, Jezebel, who calls herself a prophet. By her teachings, she misled my servants into sexual immorality and the eating of food sacrificed to idols. But the first part was what the Lord was talking to me about. My offense towards you is you have tolerated this Jezebel spirit. You have tolerated, like I mentioned, I would go along with certain things that I knew, like, dude, like, this don't even feel right. This don't even seem right, but I would go along with it because I wanted my family. I wanted my family. And so it was like, you did that. You had parts in that, right? You played a part in that. Like I said, it wasn't just about the Jezebel woman, but it was a spirit of Jezebel and all her characteristics and all her things that came along with that. Some of the biggest ones some of the biggest spirits are the ones I dealt with the most was the manipulation, intimidation, domination. All this falls up underneath the witchcraft spirit. All of this falls up underneath the witchcraft spirit. But those was the ones that the Lord said, these are some of the areas that you have allowed and you have welcomed in and you have been okay with and you have accepted these things. And because of this, you have allowed the spirit to interact among you for all these years, for all this time, right? Now, and that spirit, I stand totally against now. I can't stand it because the Lord trained me on that in such a way. And I've seen so many things and I learned so much about that spirit. When I see it irritates me to my soul. I can't even be around people for long before I be like, listen, because I do not do witches. I don't do the witchcraft. I don't do the control. I don't let people talk to me any kind of way. No, I don't do the projecting. I don't do that, the mind games. I don't play I don't do that because I know what that spirit has done. And I know the damage that comes along with it. All right. I know the damage that come along with it. So many people are unaware how this evil spirit is slithering itself into existence. Some people think that, I'm, just having a conversation, or this person is doing this, or this person is doing that. No, that person is playing mind games with you. No, that person is trying to manipulate you. No, that person is trying to intimidate you. No, that person is trying to control you, and this is not something that, that was taught. They don't teach you this in school. They don't teach your children this. So I'm always like putting my kids up on game like that. Like, no, you're being played. You're being manipulated, right? That is the spirit of witchcraft that's in operation right now. And it's so important. It's so important for parents to educate their children on these types of things when you're coming in contact with this different stuff, because this stuff is real. This stuff is real. People gotta stay woke. This thing is active and among us, and if you don't call it out, it will destroy you and your family. I'm a witness. I am a witness. I will always hear the Lord tell me, it's witchcraft. It's witchcraft. And I'd be like, but ain't nothing really, it's witchcraft. You trying to figure out, it's witchcraft. It's witchcraft. I'm like, but God, ain't it? It's witchcraft. It's witchcraft. And that spirit operated for so long in our home. And it's, again, this ain't to call cultures out or call things like my husband's culture. That's an area where that thing was like very, very strong in, in from what, I interacted and learned a lot about it from that. And, God wasn't pleased with that. God wasn't pleased with it because he would call me out on it. And it's like, I would not address it. And I would never forget. I think I shared before. I never forget. We was on vacation, and the Lord was giving me all these things. I mean, he was just in my ear. You better say something. And I'm like, we on vacation. I don't want to mess up a happy home. I don't want to, mess things up, God. Like, confrontation was not my thing. I didn't want to be I didn't like doing confrontation. And the reason, it wasn't just because, I want to, keep things cool or whatever. Cause I ain't really want to get myself all worked up like that either. And I remember that vacation, God was like, you better say something. You better say something. I'm like, I ain't saying this. And he allowed us to go through that whole vacation. We got all the way to the airport, came home, went out to eat, got home. He said, you're not going to say nothing? He said, okay, I'm going to pull a plug on this today. I'm going to allow your son to say something. And oh my God, that butt whooping that day was one I would never forget. It will be one that I will never forget. Me and my husband, we didn't talk for 2 years. I promise you. It was like, oh my God. And it was like God was trying to tell me, like, you better say something. You better say something. You better say something. It was horrible. It was horrible. And so one of the things I just always just tell people when it comes down to that spirit, like, you do not tolerate that spirit. Do not come in agreement with that spirit. Do not welcome that spirit into your home. Just don't do that. Okay. I stopped wanting my marriage, right? I stopped wanting my marriage, and I started wanting more of what God wanted for me. God showed me how my marriage had become my idol. God showed me that this situation was not even about my marriage. God showed me that he was going to use me for greater and bigger things. And God was trying to use my marriage injury as a way and means to train me on the things that I was going to have to deal with in the world and the things that he was calling me to. So now I help other people. Now I'm able to call it out. Now I'm able to educate people on it. That's one of the biggest things that I do when even when it comes to my session. I'm educating people in that area because that was an area that I tolerated for so long, and I got my butt whooped with it too. I got my butt whooped with it too. Okay, but now I'm much wiser. I'm much smarter. I'm much brighter. I'm much knowledgeable. But how the saying is true: what you don't know can hurt you. You thinking, well, I didn't know about that. Well, I didn't know about that. So that should be your excuse. But it's like, no, what you don't know, what you are not knowledgeable of can hurt you in the future. What you not sure of, or you don't have the counsel on, or the education on, that can hurt you. It can hurt you. And I know that's what it did for me. And so I stopped wanting my marriage, and I stopped wanting to do the things that God wanted me to do. I wanted to be able to discern and understand what he was asking of me, because God was very patient with me. God was calling me for a very long time. Even if I wanted to act like I didn't hear what he was saying, I knew exactly what he was saying. He was very specific with me when it came down to my husband and what my husband was going to, what he was going to be to me. And so I couldn't even pretend, right? I couldn't even pretend. And that's one of the things I'm always just encouraging wives to do. Like, you got to get to a place where this is not about your marriage. You got to get to a place when it's not about if your marriage is reconciled or if it's not. And that was one of the places I came to where it was like, it can happen or it don't have to happen at this point. Because the type of person that, I'm dealing with right now, I wouldn't even want to call that person my husband. Like this right here, I don't even want to call that person my husband. So I was literally at a place where it was like, no, I'm good either way at this point, because now I had went through my training. Now God had refined me. God had did all his work in me. I was at a good place where I could like really go and be about my business and be about my life and be okay. Like I was okay with that part, right? And so I wanted to be able to discern and understand what God was asking of me. Wives, you cannot be afraid of letting go of your marriage and trusting God with the outcome. I always tell wives, and this is one of the things why I always emphasize to wives, what did God say to you about your marriage? Because if you're in a marriage where there is, which is the next part, if it is God's will for your marriage to be restored after you're dealing with somebody who's dealing with addiction, adultery, abandonment, mental and emotional abuse, you got to know that God is telling you to be in that place, because only God can revive such a marriage. A lot of these wives are like looking for like this sweet pill or something, or like this some kind of, you know, portion or something where you just give me the formula and whatever it is I got to do to get my husband back, that's what I'm going to do. But you got to understand, it ain't like that. you it's not like, oh, okay, God, I want my husband back. Oh, you know, they got this thing called, you know, marital restoration, so I want to be part of that plan. So can you just pick on that plan and just like help me get my husband back? No, you got to go through something. You're going to have to go through some fire. You're going to have to go through some hell for that. You're going to have to go through something. You're going to have to do something for that. You're going to have to sacrifice for that. You're going to have to go low to get that type of thing. And it's like, it's fine. But if you know that you heard from God, and God has already stamped your marriage as what he said is going to be, then you're fine, right? You're fine. Because only God can revive such a marriage like that. People can't do stuff like that. You can pray over that person. That person have their own, your spouse has his own free will. Your spouse has his own free will. And so you can pray and pray and pray, and you can have people pray for you, and you can speak in the spirit. And I'm not saying prayer don't work. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, God's will be done concerning your marriage. And so if this is why I say, if you don't know that you're supposed to be doing this, I get a lot of times where I say, well, you know, I'm not sure. Well, God told me to work on myself. God told me to focus on me. And then as they start doing those things, then God will give more revelation. As they start doing those beginning steps, then God will give more revelation. But if you're like just out here and you don't really know, I give you a 30-day plan for you to go after God to seek those things out. And we'll continue on that regimen until you get a word from God, because you will hear something from God. Within those first 30 days, you're going to get a response from God. It's going to be one of two things, yay or nay. Or he going to give you something specifically, okay? You're going to know what you're supposed to do when you go through that. When you go through that 30-day the 30-day, you know, regimen that I give wise, okay? One of the ways I remain, for me, I don't know, you know, but for me, one of the ways I remain sensitive to the Spirit of God is by self-caring and taking care of my well-being. One of the ways I remain sensitive, is by prioritizing me, by making sure that I am in a healthy space, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, where I can hear from God like I need to hear from God. I need quietness. Hey, girl. I need things to be, you know, be still. I don't need no movement. I don't need no company. Can we come to your house? No. I don't need no company. I don't need a whole lot of movement. I have to be in place because I want my ears to be super sensitive to what God is saying and what God is leading me to do. Okay? And so this is one of the things I always encourage wives to make sure that you're prioritizing yourself and taking care of yourself. All right? God will speak to you about your marriage. He will speak to you about your marriage. But please understand, this journey is not about your marriage, wife. Your marriage injury was the invite. Your marriage injury was the way God got your attention. You have to go deeper and figure out what the next things is that he wants you to do. All right. So there was a season I was studying the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis for many years, and God gave me, you know, a revelation about the number 13. This is something that I carried with me like very early on in my marriage and, you know, over the years. And that's why this, you know, the number 13 is so important to me in my life, in my marriage, and even in my business. In my business, the curriculum, her bonus boost, I walk the wives through the 13 steps. That's where that comes from. It comes from my journey, from what I went through. So when people say, how can you do that? Because I walked through it first. I understand your journey. I can't give you something that I never experienced, I didn't have. I can walk you through those 13 steps because God walked me through those 13 steps. And so that's where the revelation came from for the Harbonity boost. And then, like I said, I remember the Lord told me, you know, your marriage will not be restored into the 13th year. So the number 13 was very, very important in my life. But what I want wives to understand is I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision that I was not going to be weighed down by my husband's negative choices. I wasn't going to be weighed down by his decision. I had to choose me. And what I have been experiencing, speaking with some of the wives this, you know, this past week in my sessions, is these husbands are coming home, and it's like things are not looking like how they thought it was going to look. Things are not going how they thought it was going to go. And because those things are not going the way, wives are being very, very confused about, but wait, I thought once he came back home, everything was going to be good. But you don't even know. That's when things jump off the most, especially if that husband has not given his life completely over to the Lord and is not walking with the Lord and surrendering completely with the Lord. Okay. Now, I cannot share my husband's story, or his process, but I can share how the evil one locks these men in a holding cell due to their own willingness. Okay. I can't even speak on that. A lot of times wives, I always ask wives, why did you, choose me as a coach or somebody else? And one of the reasons they choose me is because I do speak from the husband point of view. I do speak about the husbands and what they have actually went through and what they have actually experienced. And that is some of the things that has, I've seen and I've experienced. The enemy is holding these men in a holding cell. Okay, they're holding them in a holding cell. They're being there because of the access that the enemy has in their life. They have allowed the enemy access to them, and the enemy has open room, open door to do whatever they want, whatever he wants to them. All right. You have to understand, wife, and I'm talking to the wife who is living in the home with the husband, and the husband has came back home, and you thinking like, I thought they was going to be this way. I thought it was going to be this way. And he's still tripping, and he's still kind of like all over the place. You have to understand, wife, one of the hardest things for a wife is to see her husband go through something like that. Man, I'm telling you the truth. And I'm trying not to cry. I'm telling you the truth. When you can see what the enemy is doing to this person and you're trying to help them and they won't let you help them, baby, that's a hard pill to swallow. Okay? That's a hard pill to swallow. Especially when God has you, the wife there, the helper. You are trying to help, but because of his pride and because of his own self-will, his own free will, your hands are limited. And this is why I try to get wives to understand there's only so much that you can do. There's only so much that you can do with a person who is in a place where they already got their mind made up about what they want to do. You can't fight against a person's will, right? They have to make a decision. They have to make a choice. They have to want these things. They have to want to get well. They have to want to be healthy. They have to want to be better, especially when you're dealing with people, with addictions and that kind of stuff. They have to make a decision. Sometimes I remember back in the day they would read about and I used to go to the classes was called the AA classes for the family members. I used to go to those classes. The Lord made me go to those classes for 6 weeks. He said, I want you to go for 6 weeks. And they would all say, you got to give them an ultimatum. You got to give them an ultimatum. You got to give them an ultimatum. And I always say, I don't think that ultimatum thing is really is good. I don't think giving them an ultimatum is healthy and that's going to help them. And I will fight with that. I will fight with it. Like, I don't really think give them an ultimatum because I feel like because they have a problem, they're going to choose their addiction. They're going to choose what they want to do. And then I think I recently heard, I think it was Tim Ross that talked about this, where he was saying ultimatums is witchcraft. I'm like, that's probably why I was feeling like that all those years. Because I always just felt like that. I don't think that is true. I don't think that is right. That you were telling these people that they have to have a choice. You either pick that stuff or me. They're like, all right, I'm going to pick this. Like, that's an easy win, And so they have to make a decision. They have to make a decision that they want to do these things and they want to get healthy. All right. And so one of the things I just always emphasize is that I know both sides of the field. I know both sides of the field. When the husband leaves the home and when the husband returns back to the home, both are hard. All right. Both are hard. However, the hardest part is when you are watching the man you love. When you are watching that person that you love and you see what the enemy is doing and they refuse to get their own life together. They refuse. They're refusing because they're following their own will and they won't submit to God's way. Your only choice, hear me on this part, wife, you're not going to like this. Your only choice at this time is to keep moving forward. You cannot stand there and try to make this be something that it's not being. You have to move forward. You cannot keep on standing there at the door waiting day after day after day. Okay, is he going to change today? Oh, is he going to be better today? Is it going to be? You cannot do that. You got to keep moving. God is calling you to keep moving. You can't just stand there and be looking and waiting and hoping and wishing that something gets better. Listen, you got to keep going, right? You got to keep going. You can't sit around and wait for him to get it together, okay? You pray for him. You be guided by the Spirit on what you can say to him and when to say things to him. Because there will come times as you are getting healed, as you are getting healthy, as you are getting better, that the Lord will give you specific things to say to him. He will give you a place where you can speak into his life and he will receive it from you. Because a lot of times wives are speaking to their husband sometimes and they're speaking and he ain't receiving it because they ain't season for them to be telling them that. But there will be a time when the Lord will open up a door where you can speak directly to your husband's soul and he will receive what you're saying to him. He will receive the word of truth from you, but you got to be spirit led. All right. This is a patient journey. So many wives are trying to come in here and get out. It's like, baby, this is a patient journey. This ain't on 1, 2, 3 in a hop. No. You're going to have to go through some things for you to get to that place, or for you to get to see the results that you want to see, which the results that many wives want to see is restoration. They want to see that picture of restoration, what restoration looks like, right? So you can't sit around and wait for him. You have to pray for him. You have to be led on how you say something to him and when you are able to say something to him, okay? Why? Because you have other earthly assignments. You have other earthly assignments, wife. You have other earthly assignments. You stand there trying to get your husband back to this happy ever after, family man, marriage, or how things used to be. And he's already got his mind made up what he's going to do. You're holding yourself up, and God is not okay with that. God is not okay with that. Do you move on and just forget about your marriage? I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you to forget about your marriage, but I'm telling you that your marriage cannot be the priority when you have done your part, and God is telling you, we got to keep going. We got to keep moving. We got, I know he said that, but we got stuff to do. We got to keep going forward. We got to keep going forward. You have to move with God. You have to move how God leads you. And what I am seeing is so many wives are in the same place, and so many wives are in this cycle, and so many wives are in the same, in the same place year after year, month after month, day after day. They're in the same stuck place, stagnant place, because they are not moving with God. They're trying to do things in their own strength. They're trying to bring back that happy ever after family. They want that perfect picture life. Well, he was nice to me today. Oh, we had sex today. Oh, well, he came over and seen the kids today. Oh, well, we had a good conversation today. Oh, it seems like things is getting better for us today. But they are not being led by God. They're doing all these things in their own strength. And because they're doing these things in their own strength, the next year coming in the same exact place, if not worse. All right? If not worse. Y'all have to be led by God. God is the author and the finisher of your life. He will complete your story in his great timing, but you got to let him finish it. So many wives are trying to write, they trying to write their story before, and God like, we ain't got there yet. we have not got yet. We have not got there yet. You trying to write and go ahead and skip a page, and we ain't got through this part yet. Okay? We haven't got through this part. So I want to just share with you 3 things that you need to be doing once you make a decision to move forward. Once you come to a conclusion and come to a place where like, I can't fix this. I can't, he's home, we here, what's next? What's next? So in order for you to move forward, these are some things that you need to be doing, okay? Number 1, stay connected to the vine. Stay connected to the vine. Stay at the feet of Jesus and become a student of his holy word. Learn, grow, mature, and get really clear on where you are on your spiritual journey. Become a student of the Lord. Become a student of the book. AKA become a disciple. Your job is to stay connected to the vine, because it's in his word is where you are going to learn, you are going to grow, you're going to mature, and it's also the weapons and the training that he's given and he's using to help you. So when he does release you to say something to your husband, you're not saying what you want to say, but now you're using the weapons that he's been teaching you. And so many wives do not want to be a student. They do not want to be a student, so therefore they don't even know how to combat with that spirit that's working in their husband, because they're not a student. They're not connected to the vine. So you have to stay connected to the vine. That's first, okay? Number 2, stay on a mental health regimen. A lot of people take this part and just kind of like put it on the shelf. Oh, I'm fine. Oh, I'm good. Oh, I'm all right. I'm good. No, you're not. When you're dealing with a fool like this, you are not okay. When you are in a crisis like this in your marriage, you are not good. You can say it however you want to say it. You are not good, ma'am. Okay? You need to stay on a mental health regimen. This is for your own personal well-being. And it is a healthy way. It is a healthy way to check in with yourself, to check in with your marriage, and the progress of how things are going in your life. If you are in a marriage, and I'm going to whisper and say this. If you are in a marriage And addiction, abandonment, adultery is present or has been present. When you're dealing with mental and emotional abuse and you feel like God has told you to stay in that marriage and you don't have no way of processing all that, the Bible is telling you clearly that you can exit out of this marriage, but you still feel like God is telling you to do this, that thing will drive somebody crazy. You need some help. You need to be on a mental regimen to walk through that, to process through those emotions, to process through that pain, to process through what you're dealing with, to talk and share with somebody who understands and who can relate. You need to be on a mental regimen, a mental health regimen. You do not need to be in an unhealthy marriage like that saying, oh, well, God told me to stay in my marriage and I'm going to just, stay in my marriage. I'm going to keep on just reading the word and going to church. And that's going to be it. Okay. Because I'm going to give you 3 things. You're going to need all 3 of these things, not just one. If you're dealing with an unhealthy spouse, you need to be on a mental health regimen because 1 or 2 things is going to happen. And I'm telling you from my own experience. I'm telling you, I didn't even know I was going through a mental breakdown. I didn't even know I was having a mental breakdown. You're going to lose your freaking mind trying to combat all this stuff. Like, okay, God, you saying this, but this is acting like this. Like, you said this, but he's over here doing this. Like, which one is it? Which way do we go? You need somebody to help you to understand that craziness that's going on, that's taking place in that. You need somebody to help you process through that, and then you apply the word of God there. You need somebody to help you walk through those steps, and then you apply the word of God to that. He's acting like a straight demon over here. But God telling me to stay? No, that don't make sense. I'm dealing with Beelzebub. And God's telling me to stay here and be with Beelzebub? No, that don't make sense. And that ain't gonna make sense. So this is why you need to make sure that you are applying the word, but you also need to be you also need to be processing through that. Because some of the things that you're going to experience and come in contact with, that ain't gonna make sense. I won't even tell a person to do something like that. And so there's ways around that. It's ways where you can still do what God has asked you to do, but maintain yourself as well. Do what God asked you to do, but continue to keep your mind. Do what God has asked you to do, but still be in a healthy place and a healthy space. You can't do one or the other. Not in a marriage like this. When you're dealing with a marriage like this, addiction, abandonment, adultery, mental and emotional abuse, you need to be on a mental health regimen. And if you was to go to any counselor or a therapist or anybody like that, and they don't have this journey or they don't have this walk, they would tell you, why are you still in that marriage? Exit out of that marriage, leave that marriage. They would tell you to exit left. This is one of the reasons why I always encourage wives to get connected to the right source. Get connected with somebody who can help you walk through that. If you have the luxury to have a wife coach who understands your story and your journey, invest in yourself. This is one of the things that you must do. A lot of times wives ask me, well, how long are you supposed to have a wife coach? I had my wife coach for 7 years. Okay, I've shared with you guys on yesterday. I just shared on yesterday. I walk with my wife up to 2 years or as needed. It's not necessarily a cutoff, but I say, let me walk with you up into a year. That's my recommendation. Let me walk with you up into a year. If you want to continue to walk with me after that year, you are absolutely welcome to, because I understand. You're going to go through different highs and lows and stuff on that journey. So you need somebody to help you process through that. You need somebody to walk with you through that. Listen, lady, answer. I need to talk to somebody, because something right. I need to talk to you, because if I don't talk to somebody, something is going to jump up over here. What's going on? Because I feel like I'm going left. If you have the luxury to invest into a wife coach, to invest in, invest in coaching, and have somebody walk with you on your journey, baby, that is one of the most healthiest things that you can do for yourself. That's one of the most healthy things you can do for yourself. Like I said, I had my coach for 7 years. Because I was a little different. I was very stubborn. The disrespect, I didn't do well with disrespect. I was very, very quick, with my hands. I was very quick with my hands. I would run my mouth, but my hands was quicker. Baby, what did you mean? What do you mean? You need somebody that you can talk to. You need somebody who can help you with that, okay? So, stay connected to the vine. Stay on a mental health regimen. Number 3, stay connected to your local church. Stay connected to your local church. This is one of the things I said. I don't come on here to bash the church. I don't come over here to talk against the church, because the church is part of this journey. You need this. You do need this. But it's not just, okay, I got church and that's it. You need all of these things. Some people want to do parts of it. They want to do, okay, I do this part, I don't do this part. I'm going to do this part. No, you need all 3 of these things. You need this part. You need to stay connected to your local church. This is where community happens. This is where your small groups, take place. This is where your weekly encouragement happens. This is where you have somebody that can pray with you one-on-one. This is where you have, you are pursuing your other earthly assignments. This is where this happens at. This is when you figure out and can figure out what you are good at and what you, in areas that you're supposed to be working in. When I was going through my stuff, I signed up for everything the church was offering. I was part of every group. I did everything. Like, baby, y'all having a class tonight? Okay, what time to start? I'll be there. I was part of everything. This is when you learn your earthly assignments. This is one of the ways of how you can really learn your earthly assignments. What you good at, and what that's not for me. I quickly learned that the children ministry was not for me, right? But this is an area where that happens at. A lot of times it starts from your church, working in the ministries and helping others. You have no idea. You have no idea how life would start moving for you and how far you would get on your journey when you're focusing on something else, when you're focusing on other things, when you got your mind somewhere else, when you're helping somebody else out. And it's in those moments when God be like, all right, hey, let me talk to you for a minute. Let me have you say this. Let me do this for him. I want you to do this for him. I want you to do these things. That's when God started talking. But so many wives are just kind of like, they sitting around like just waiting. He ain't do nothing today. Okay, I'm gonna wait till tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow coming. Okay. Ain't nothing happened. He still been okay. And now you done waited not a whole 3 months that went by, 6 months that went by, and you still looking for him to change, and you have not did nothing yourself. This is where the church comes in handy at. Get involved in the church. Get involved in ministry. Get involved helping somebody else out. Get involved with starting a business, going back to school. Get involved. You need to be doing something so your mind is not all the way focused on just your marriage, okay? And so those are the 3 things that you need in order for you to move forward on this journey. As always, I always tell y'all there's 3 ways. There's 3 ways you can work with Coach T. 3 ways. You can sign up for your consultation. Your consultation is simply clarity. Answering some of those questions, helping you kind of like navigate where you are, help you to understand where, your journey, helping you understand even where your husband is, and help you to understand what your next steps are, okay? That's what the consultation is for. You can sign up for your consultation. Or if you're saying, you know what, I know I'm going to need more than just a one-time session. I want to do several sessions. So I encourage wives at that point to sign up for the mental and emotional detox. This is my 30-day plan where I know I walk with wives for 30 days. They have access to me where if anything come up during those 30 days, they'll still be to reach me. We have 4 sessions and we talk about that pain. We talk about what she's going through. We talk about, her heartache. We talk about her husband. We talk about, what she got going on. We do that. This is an area where a lot of the wives I work with, they are in this area for a while. They're in this place until they get to that next place. Okay. When they go after the 30-day check-in, they sometimes go to, like they're checking, bi-weekly or they're checking monthly to kind of like stay on a regimen and keep their accountability because they're not ready to make that investment. And the investment, and that's where her bonus was coming at. That's the investment. That's when we're running with the big dogs. That's when you're saying you're ready for recovery. You're ready to recover yourself. You're ready to now step out and do pivot from your marriage and start focusing on the next chapter of your life. Pivoting, not saying that you're giving up on your marriage, but pivoting and saying that I'm ready to focus on the other things that God has been telling me to do or other things that God has been calling me to do. Listen, you can sign up at my website, www.marriagechroniclesbytanika.com. I always encourage wives, you need to be doing one of the 3. You need to be doing one of the 3. If you ain't doing a consultation, you need to be underneath somebody regiment. There's no way you are out here dealing with an unhealthy marriage and you ain't got nobody to talk to. Or you're talking to one of your crazy friends, your girlfriends, your sister them, your mama them. You're talking to them and they don't really understand it. So they give you all this information that it's like, that's not healthy information either. Now you're watching all these different sermons on TV and all these, YouTube channels and you get all this and you're trying to like piece everything together and none of that stuff is healthy. I'm trying to tell you. Does it help? Yes. But you need to be led on how you watch some of that stuff on YouTube and how you watch some of those channels. You ain't supposed to be listening to everybody. You ain't supposed to be letting everybody speak into your marriage. Why? The bottom line is you got to stop wanting your marriage and you got to start wanting more of God and see what it is that he is calling you to. All right. You got to see what it is that he's calling you to because he's not just calling you to stay in this unhealthy marriage for your husband. If you thinking that something is wrong, you've gotten wrong information. That's not what this journey is about. God has not told you to stay in that unhealthy marriage for your husband. You are not doing this for your husband. You are in that unhealthy marriage and God has you in that place. He has chose you because it's something that he wants to do and work out in you. And more than likely, he's going to use you for his kingdom to do his work. And he's using your marriage as an invite to grab you and get your attention. All right. And so on that note, I want to just, encourage you. Sign up. www.marriagechroniclesbytanika.com. In the meantime, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Friday. Happy Self-Care Friday. And I'll see y'all on the other side. Blessings.